What's up, nerds? My name is Steve from Flipping the Nerd, and this is my top 10 favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe films. Avengers Endgame is coming out this week when I'm recording, and I couldn't be more excited. This is the culmination of all 22 or 21 films that have preceded it, and I am psyched. So I want to tell you what my top 10 favorite films in this series are. Now, again, I say this every week. These are my favorite 10 films, not necessarily the ones I think are the best as far as cinematic qualities go. These are just the ones I like to watch the most. So before we begin, a couple honorable mentions. The first one being Doctor Strange. Now, Doctor Strange is a really cool character. I like seeing him on screen a lot. I just don't feel that his movie was it didn't hold my interest as much as some of the other ones. Now, it's a good film for sure, but putting it up against all the other heavyweights in this list, I couldn't justify putting in my top 10. I do enjoy seeing the character interact with other MCU characters, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but as a film itself, great, maybe not great, very good, but not worthy of my top 10. The other one is Ant-Man. Similar thing. I love Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. I think he really owned that role. And by all accounts, an Ant-Man movie shouldn't be any good at all. But this one was very good, and I really did enjoy it. I just didn't like it as much as the other ones on the list. It is a fun movie. It's a fun story. It's told really well. But I don't know if it's because of the director change midway through when Edgar Wright left, or what it was, but it felt a little muddled, and I didn't like the villain all that much, so that's why it didn't make the list. Then we have Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, before the MCU, I wasn't a big fan of Captain America, the kind of righteous guy that he was in the comics, but I did enjoy his turn in this movie. I thought it was a solid film, but at this point, I didn't want to go back in time. I wanted to kind of keep going with the current timeline of the MCU, so going back to World War II was not super interesting to me. But I got to see Peggy Carter, which is a character I adore. Red Skull was really well done, and it was a fun movie, and it was more than I ever thought Captain America could ever be for me, which ended up being a big mistake because he ended up being really awesome. But for his first turn in his first movie, it was good, not worthy of the top 10. Then we have Black Panther. Black Panther is a very good film, for sure. What it did for film in general and the MCU and opened up a lot of doors, it's an amazing film, for sure. I just thought it was a little slow. Maybe this is, and you'll see this, a lot of these films, they're the introductions of the characters, and I'm getting tired of seeing introduction to the characters and origin stories. Now, even though he was already Black Panther, having been in Civil War, it kind of retold his origin story in a way because they take his powers away, which, by the way, I am so tired of seeing people getting their powers taken away as a plot point. It just drives me nuts. But great movie, fantastic performances. I love all the characters in this. Killmonger was an amazing villain, and yeah, for sure, Black Panther deserved an honorable mention, but not a spot on my list. And finally, Captain Marvel. Now, to be fair, I only saw it once in theaters, and all the other films I've seen at least 3 times, so I didn't get a chance to watch it with kind of less expectations because I always go in with such huge expectations. It was a fun film. It was there's a lot of great characters. I like Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. But again, it didn't wow me in the way that other MCU films have. Now, who knows? Maybe when I see it again without the expectations I had the first time, I'll enjoy it more. But for the purpose of this top 10 right now, it doesn't crack the list. So let's go and get on the list. Number 10, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Volume 2. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy series. I think the team is very interesting, and I was really looking forward to seeing where their adventures would go next. And when I heard that, of all friggin' people, Ego would make an appearance, I'm a big fan of the cosmic side of the Marvel Universe. So to think that of all the characters that Ego would be appearing, and then when I saw him as Ego the Planet, I was just like mind blown because I remember as a kid thinking this is a character I'll never see on screen. Still pissed off I got Ego before Proper Galactus, but that's a whole other story. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is a very fun film. I enjoy the performances, I enjoy the story, I like the kind of storyline of what Peter Quill is going through with his father. Kurt Russell is amazing in everything, so that's just the way it is. But it's actually Yondu's story with Rocket that I really liked about this movie, more so than the main storyline. I don't think it was as good as the original, but it was a strong follow-up to the series, and that's why I cracked the list. Number 9. Avengers Age of Ultron. It definitely was the worst Avengers, and you'll see the other two, of course, on this list. But when all these characters come together, there's just this certain magic that happens on screen, and that's why it cracked the list. Ultron was a cool character, but I think I had such huge expectations for him that they didn't quite meet them. It was cool to see the introduction of the Vision, but there's something, and I don't know quite what it is, that was missing from this film. Maybe it was the whole Sokovia thing that I quite honestly didn't care about. So that being kind of the big plot point of this story is raising Sokovia and dropping it on the world. It never really grabbed me as a story, and that's why it's so low on the list. But seeing these characters interact is what I really enjoy the most out of the MCU. So that's why I put it, it's one of my favorites, just not quite as high as some of the other ones. Number 8. Iron Man. The one that kicked off the entire series. I remember the day that the Iron Man movie got announced and that Robert Downey Jr. was cast as the character. I was at my friend's house in Sherbrooke, and I thought, that's a great person to play this character, and oh my god, was he ever. He is the heart of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it was evident in this first film. It was so cool to finally see a Marvel movie, because remember, at this point there was no other MCU films that took it like really seriously. The costume was exactly as we had seen in the comics, the character was like in the comics, and it was just so crazy. The reason it's low on the list is because I don't like the villain in it. I don't remember, was it Iron something? I really don't remember his name, it's been so long. But I did really enjoy the movie, and that shows you how much I like that villain, how forgettable he was. But still, great movie, definitely a great way to kickstart the MCU, and it did deserve a spot on the list. Number 7. Thor Ragnarok. Oh my god. So Thor movies had not been that good up until this point. The first Thor was okay, not great. That second Thor is like my second least favorite MCU film after only the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk. But oh my god, did Taika Waititi do a great job with Thor Ragnarok. It's fun, it's funny, there's action sequences. Everybody in this movie is awesome. I mean, just Korg and Meek are some of the greatest characters ever in the MCU as far as I'm concerned. So that was definitely a huge point. It's just an amazing film. I really enjoyed it throughout the whole thing, and that's why it absolutely had to be on the list. This is one of the most fun MCU films that there have been, and I enjoy watching it every single time that I do. So yeah, definitely had to be on the list. Number 6. Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel character of all. So of course, any type of turn for Spider-Man would be amazing for me. Now, I like the first Spider-Man series with Tobey Maguire. Not so much the next one with Andrew Garfield. But when they cast Tom Holland as Spider-Man, this is the Spider-Man I had imagined as a kid. Now, I'd grown up watching Spider-Man 67, so that's kind of like, I like the sarcastic Spider-Man and the young Spider-Man. It was just not just pretending to be young Spider-Man like Andrew Garfield was. I just really liked the story. It was down to earth. It felt really real. I mean, oh my god, the Vulture in this movie is just so friggin' amazing. The scene where they're in the car when he's going to the prom, and it's just so well shot and so well told, and it was just an amazing film. And I believed the villains, I really believe the villain was doing the right thing in his mind, and that's always the great thing about villains, is when you actually believe that what they're doing is right. When they believe what they're doing is right. He's not just being a villain for villain's sake. And yeah, I adored this movie, and I cannot wait to see the next one this summer because Tom Holland's Spider-Man is just fantastic. Number 5. Guardians of the Galaxy. The first one, of course, amazing. I can't believe that a movie about a raccoon and a tree and 2 aliens and a dickhead human could be so good. But my god, did James Gunn make an amazing film out of this. From the music to the characters to the comedy to the world building. Seeing Nowhere was so friggin' cool. Seeing Thanos kind of actually have a scene as opposed to just the button the end credit scene at the Avengers. Yeah, I just liked everything about this movie. Now, I think the villain was a little bit weak, Ronan. I didn't really buy his motivation. I didn't love that character, and that took it down a notch a little bit, but that's really a nitpick because everything else was fantastic, and I really enjoyed this film. So Guardians of the Galaxy, oh hell yeah. Number 4. Captain America Civil War. Again, I love seeing all these characters come together, so that's why it's so high on the list. And this one actually did it really well, as opposed to Age of Ultron, which wasn't the best. I really felt that Captain America and Iron Man had this huge tension, and there's so many cool things that happen. You get the introduction of Black Panther, which is a great character. You get the introduction of Spider-Man, which, oh my god, I was so happy to see Spider-Man in the MCU. I just really enjoyed this film. Now, Baron Zemo, could not care less. Honestly, I don't know. I guess he had to be part of the story, but did he really have to? I don't know. I didn't really care about Baron Zemo, but other than that, this was a fantastic film, and I loved how the characters played on each other and the weight of the consequences of everything that they've done, everything that they've destroyed in the MCU so far. It was a really interesting story. It was very well told, and I enjoyed this movie thoroughly, and I still watch it every once in a while. It's just such a fun movie to watch. So, yeah, Captain America Civil War definitely had to be on the list. Number 3. Captain America the Winter Soldier. So here we are. I cannot believe that 2 Captain America films are so high on the list. But my god, was this character well done. And this movie is my favorite one of the solo stories that they've done. Captain America Winter Soldier is such a strongly made movie. This is the first time the Russo brothers came together to make a film, and it was just a solid story. It was like an espionage story. Captain America and Black Widow were really fun to be together, and I got to see GSP, George St. Pierre, in a movie which is his acting was terrible, but I was just so happy to see it. I just really enjoyed this movie. We got a little bit of the out of time storyline for Captain America, kind of how he reacts to being in the future, and I enjoyed that. And it just you really felt that he wanted to, reconnect with Bucky, his friend. And it's just so well told, perfectly paced, and Robert Redford as the villain was fantastic. So I really adored this movie. It might be the one I feel is the best of the MCU movies as far as one film, but it's not my favorite, but still had to be here at number 3. Number 2, The Avengers. if I could tell my little self, go back in the time and tell my little self that I was going to see the Avengers movie, like the way that they should have been, I would have had my mind blown. To see all these characters unite into one movie just gave me so much joy. I've probably seen this movie 25 times or more. I just really, really, really enjoy seeing all these characters come together. The story isn't the greatest, it's not as solid as some of the other ones, but just the pure joy I have of seeing these characters interact with each other for the first time and the dynamic that they have with each other is why this movie is so high on my favorite list. They've done it better, but it was the first time, and that's why personally it's so high on the list. So the Avengers, yeah, absolutely had to be on the list. Number 1, Avengers Infinity War. This took everything that I loved about the Avengers and just brought it up so much more. All of the characters are in this, all the characters that I know and love interacting together and getting to see different characters do different things with each other and pairings that you wouldn't expect, like Thor and Rocket and Doctor Strange and Iron Man. It was just, oh my god, I felt like a little kid watching this movie. And if there's one thing I really like in these movies is seeing really powerful villains go at it. And Thanos is my favorite villain that they've done in the MCU. I can't believe they pulled it off. When we found out that Thanos was going to be the kind of the villain of the entire series at the end of Avengers, I thought, that's amazing, but I don't think they can pull it off. And then the build-up was so huge that I thought there's no way they're going to pull it off because our expectations are just way too high at this point. But damn it, they did it. Thanos was super fun to watch and a great, solid character. Again, he felt justified in his means. He wasn't just crazy. He wasn't the mad titan that people made him out to be. He actually cared about Gamora, for example. And seeing the Infinity Gauntlet story told in a movie was just honestly a dream come true. And that's why I love it so much. And I watch it so many times. When I'm cleaning around the house and I want to have something in the background, I'd say 1 out of 3 times I'll put on Infinity War because I just enjoy it that much. And I cannot wait to see the conclusion of the story with Endgame next week. So let me know, what is your top 10? What are your favorites? Maybe some that I didn't mention, or maybe you feel some of mine are too high. Let me know about my list. I'd love to know about your list. I'd just like to discuss the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I hope you all enjoy watching Avengers Endgame because I think it's going to be an epic surprise. Next week, I'm going back to my horror roots as I'm enjoying my new horror room that I built, and I'm going to do my top 10 scariest horror scenes, and I cannot wait to talk about it. So don't forget to watch my other videos. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all on the flip side.